Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Ethan Kelly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Please sit if you can do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lieutenant Stanley James Bennie. Stanley Bennie was born in Lauriston, Victoria, around 1892, the eldest son of James and Elizabeth Bennie. He attended Lauriston State School and went on to find employment as an engine driver. Bennie enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force at Ballarat on the 7th of May 1915. His brothers Alf and Ray also served, returning safely to Australia in 1919. Bennie was allotted to reinforcements for the 21st Battalion and embarked from Melbourne on the troop ship Demosthenes in July. Bennie joined his unit in Egypt before it headed for Gallipoli in late August. Landing at Anzac Cove in early September, the battalion had a relatively quiet time at Gallipoli, as the last major Allied offences had been defeated in August. After evacuation from Gallipoli in December, the 21st Battalion arrived in France in late March 1916. It was the first Australian battalion to begin active operations on the Western Front. In late June, Bennie took part in night raid on enemy trenches. During the Battle of Pozières, the 21st Battalion was engaged mainly on carrying duties, but suffered its heaviest casualties on the war during the fighting around Mouquet Farm. Bennie was made temporary corporal on the 1st of August as a result of the wounding of another man, and 2 months later was promoted to sergeant under the same circumstances. Bennie's leadership skills continued to be noticed, and on the 7th of April 1917, he was appointed to second lieutenant. Not long afterwards, in early May, his battalion fought at Bullecourt. Bennie was wounded in action, suffering a gunshot wound to his left forearm. After being admitted to a casualty clearing station, then transferred to an ambulance train before reaching a Red Cross hospital, the wound was operated on. Around this time, Bennie was recommended for the Military Cross for his actions during an attack on enemy lines at Villa Soronka, when he took command of a company after the commander was wounded. While the award was never officially approved, he was mentioned in dispatches in September for several months of outstanding work as the battalion's scouting officer. While his wound healed, Bennie was left with ongoing problems with his arm and was sent to England at the end of the month to recover. After a period of recovery, a medical board determined that Bennie was well enough to return to service. He now had good motion in his left elbow and a firm grip. He rejoined his unit in France in late November 1917 with a promotion to lieutenant. After attending first Anzac Corps School and some other officer training, Bennie had some leave in England in August and early September 1918 before returning to duty. On the 5th of October, men of the depleted 2nd Australian Division captured the village of Montebrain. British troops had fought their way in 2 days earlier and were exhausted and had been unable to hold their position. The battle plan was put together at relatively short notice, but applied many of the successful tactics that had been used since successes at Hamel. This attack, spearheaded by the 21st and 24th Battalions, was to be the last action involving Australian infantry on the Western Front. Advancing in the early morning, the Australians succeeded in occupying the village and took some 400 German prisoners. The action claimed 430 Australian casualties. Among the dead was Lieutenant Stanley Bennie, who had led his platoon into action before being killed. He was 26 years old. Today, his remains lie buried in Tincourt, New British Cemetery in France. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. In the group photograph of officers of the 21st Battalion that is displayed today beside the pool of reflection, Lieutenant Bennie is in the second row, second from the left. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We will now remember Lieutenant Stanley James Bennie, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We particularly appreciate your visit despite the challenges posed by COVID and wish you all a very pleasant evening.